Welcome to week 1. Here's your exercises for this week. This program is designed to increase your confidence and help to reduce some of those side effects that we get from the birthing process. So I hope that you really enjoyed the process, and if you have any questions, get in contact. These upcoming exercises are your daily fundamentals. So they're really important that you try to do them every day, and if not once a day, maybe twice a day. So you can do them when you're driving in the car or when you've got a few moments to yourself, but they're really important. Before we progress the exercises, we need to make sure that you are waking up the correct muscles, that being your pelvic floor and your transverse abdominis, and that we've really got a really good foundation to work on so that we can hold and maintain them for a period of time. So again, these are your daily exercises, so please work through them at least once or twice a day. Deep belly breathing. When we take an inhalation, the ideal way to do that is to breathe through our nose and into our belly. However, a lot of us, and when you're stressed or busy, we breathe in through our mouth into our shoulders. The reason this isn't the ideal way to do it is that our breath is connected to our pelvic floor. This may be something you've never thought about before and you haven't had to. But now that we've had that pressure on your pelvic floor, whether you had a vaginal or a cesarean birth, you carried that weight for 9 months. So that's a lot of weight on that pelvic floor. So our breath to pelvic floor connection is important to think about. So the ideal way, when we breathe in through our nose, 2 hands on your chest. This is a drill that we're gonna do. 1 hand on our chest, 1 hand on our belly. In through the nose. I want you to fill your belly with the air, not your chest. Your chest hand should stay still. Your belly hand should rise and then come back down, okay? Breathe out through your nose. The belly hand comes back down. So from side on, big breath in through my nose. Hand on my belly comes out. Big breath out, hand on my belly comes back in, okay? When we breathe in, our diaphragm fills. When we breathe out, it contracts again. Your diaphragm is like a balloon, a cylindrical balloon. When we breathe in, that balloon expands. It pushes my organs down, it pushes into my ribs, just to make room for that oxygen. And the pelvic floor is at the bottom of the pelvis, holding everything back in. When we exhale, that hand comes back in, all the organs come back into place, and our pelvic floor contracts to come back up again. So breathing and getting that synchronicity of movement, because our pelvic floor is involved, is critical when we look at getting back into activity and getting back into sport. So practicing this deep belly breathing and getting that synchronicity is critical. But the key is just to practice that breathing and to make sure that the belly hand is coming out when we breathe in, and training ourselves not to breathe into our chest or doing shallow breaths like this, okay? Work through it, work through sitting, work through it on your back, work through 10 times and see how you go. Picking up the ruby. When we were talking about our breath to pelvic floor connection, our pelvic floor, when we exhale, is activated. We want to make sure that that pelvic floor we can contract and relax effectively, because as I said, it's joined with our breathing, but also when we look at load that's placed on it, we want to make sure that our pelvic floor is nice and strong and we can activate it effectively before we add other movement in. So picking up the ruby. Imagine there's a ruby and you're sitting on it. Your labia has encased over the top of it. Now I want you to think about contracting, 1, 2, 3, relaxing, 1, 2, 3. Contracting, 1, 2, 3, relaxing, 1, 2, 3. Think about really picking up that ruby, and I want you to feel that contraction up. Some people like to think maybe an elevator coming up, okay? But the trick is we have to feel it contracting as well. We don't want an overactive pelvic floor, we want a capable pelvic floor. So activating, 1, 2, 3, and now once you've felt it up, relax. Feel it relax all the way down, 1, 2, 3, before you go again. We can work through 10 repetitions of these. Use your hand if you find it helps, I do. Work through them, and then you can gradually increase the numbers. These are your daily fundamentals, but you can do these at traffic lights. You can do these while you're brushing your teeth. Think 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The trick is, I don't want your thighs, your buttocks, your shoulders. I don't want to see this, because then my pelvic floor is not doing the work, okay? So really think about isolating and activating. 1, 2, 3, all the way up. 1, 2, 3, all the way down. Good luck. Deep belly breathing with pelvic floor contraction. Now we're putting all our key components together. So you can do this sitting or you can do this lying on your back. One hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. Breathe in through your nose, into your belly. So now we've contracted that diaphragm, we've expanded that diaphragm, there's pressure on my pelvic floor. And now when we exhale through our nose and our belly comes back in, I want you to think about activating and picking up the ruby. Okay, so when we exhale through our nose and our hand comes back in, we pick up that ruby. And then when we inhale, back into our belly, we relax our pelvic floor. Okay, it can be quite confusing, so work through these ones with me. One hand on our chest, one hand on our belly. Breathe in through your nose into your belly. As we breathe out through our nose, we're gonna pick up the ruby. Now inhale. Exhale, pick up the ruby. Okay, so every time we're inhaling, we're relaxing. Inhale. Exhale, pick up the ruby. Relax as we inhale. Pick up the ruby. Okay, try it in sitting, try it lying down. When we go through the different positions, it will make it more difficult initially, but we want to make sure that we can practice this as much as we can, get that complete activation, that complete relaxation, and our breath and our pelvic floor have that synchronicity of activation and movement. From here, we can build on that. Good luck. Cat-cow. This is one of our yoga poses, but it's really great for building that strength around our pelvis as well as our trunk. So coming onto all fours, we want our knees under our hips and our hands under our shoulders. We're going to start in our cow position. So our head facing towards the wall while we've arched our back, pressing up through the palm of our hands. From here, we're going to pull under, bring our chin towards our belly button. So we're coming into our cat position here. Big arch of the spine. And then we're going to roll back through. Rolling back to my cow position, I've got that big dramatic arch here. And I'm building up that strength around my pelvis with these movements. Now I want you to think about activating your pelvic floor while we're doing this. This movement where we come up into our big stretch is a great one for if you've got sore shoulders from breastfeeding or from carrying the bub around. It's a great way to introduce that mobility into our spine and our shoulders. Elevated one-legged squats. So for this one, you're going to use a step or a lounge. We're going to stand up, take a big step forward, elevate our back foot so our toes are resting on it. Here we're going to bend our front knee while keeping the weight in our heels, while lowering your back knee to the ground. You'll feel this in both legs. The front one's taking the load, while the back one's working hard to stabilize. Again, thinking about activating your pelvic floor and your transverse abdominis, and we're holding them throughout this movement. Head and shoulder lifts. This is just a light exercise to help activate your abdominal muscles. So lying on your back, we're going to keep our head and our shoulders and our spine in a really relaxed and neutral position. Hands on your knees. Going to brace your core, activate your pelvic floor and your transverse abdominis. Pull your belly button towards your spine and just raise up slightly. Bring your hands towards your knees. But just a really small controlled movement here. Although before you butt your baby, you may have been able to do a big sit up. We just want a nice, small, smooth movement to help wake up our abdominal muscles. Single arm and single leg extension. Coming onto all fours, we want our wrists under our shoulders and our knees under our hips. In this position, we activate our pelvic floor and our transverse abdominis. We hold and we raise one arm to the sky. You'll notice there's no movement in my pelvis, and that's because the activation of my pelvic floor and my transverse abdominis, it helps to control my spine and stabilize my pelvis, so I don't have any movement here. Nice and stable. Activate both your
pelvic floor and transverse abdominis between repetitions, and extend one leg. Return to position, extend the other leg.